The day began with Beattie, counsel for the applicant, advising the court that his expert witness would be unavailable for the dates 26th to the 28th of May. He further explained that the witness may remain unavailable for some time as one of the expert's parents is currently receiving hospice care. Conor Fagan, counsel for FODC, said his witness was also unavailable for the same period. He went on to point out that we are where we are as we are trying to fix a timetable for days which are scheduled for just over a week's time, and that was not possible with so many competing concerns in the room. That was simply not going to work out. Speaking for Our Sperrins third party, Mary Brawley was proudly able to announce that our expert witnesses were available. Unfortunately, it's beginning to look like there may not be many others in the room to inquire with on the 26th to the 28th of May. I don't know if I mentioned in an earlier podcast that third party Pat Hawhey had created a spreadsheet of his own economic model and had asked the Commission to accept it as supplementary evidence. The Commission turned that down. From here, we moved on to the development plan questions, and for some reasons we revisited the exact same questions as last year. I do not understand why we're going over and rehashing all of this, which was more than adequately covered and agreed on in 2025, and particularly as we are so far behind on our timetable. When the DFI were asked by the Commission, did the Department have any thoughts about the Waste Mine 01 designation and if it is applicable to the mine waste tailing facility? To us, the great unwashed, this waste policy sets out the requirements for developers to consider potential environmental impacts of a waste management facility. The Department Counsel Elvin came quickly back with the somewhat startling assertion that it wasn't applicable. The Commissioner seemed quite surprised at the answer and repeated the question again. A convoluted and extended conversation then followed about the interpretation of policy, in which it transpired that the applicant's barrister, Mr Beattie, seemed to be trying to use an avenue to circumvent the local development plan. This hinged all on one word, that the waste mine facility was an ancillary operation to the mine. This one word, ancillary, was being used to obfuscate, create uncertainty, and ensure that the designation was obstructed. So while the department led by Mr Elvin was outright rejecting the suggestion that the so-called dry stack facility was in fact a mine waste tailings facility, this is precisely what the department was enabling Dalradian to develop through its ancillary works application, but without any of the environmental safeguards that would come with a waste management designation. And just for academic interest, Dalradian's proposed mine waste tailing facility would permanently store millions of cubic metres of mining waste, including tailings, waste rock and ore rejects. This waste would contain water along with toxic chemicals, heavy metals, creating long-term environmental risks for rivers, ecosystems and surrounding communities for generations to come. Mr Fagan came back in at this point to the discussion with the remark about the department's unequivocal and very firm decision about the mine waste designation, without having heard all the depositions. Emmett McAleer said the department's mask of neutrality is beginning to slip. All week they have sat there and deferred answers to other questions, saying it would be up to the PAC to decide, or that they would have to take instruction on this issue, and so on, to quote Emmett. And when the topic of mine waste comes along and the possible designation of WM01, you suddenly have a very strong opinion about it. Mary Brawley quickly followed up, saying this response does not smack of neutrality, but could be attributed to another motive, asking, is there political innuendo to this? Interestingly, Dr. Gordon, counsel for the applicant, when asked by the Commissioner, was the DSF, the dry stack facility, a mine waste facility, confirmed that it was, following up the comment that it is a waste facility for extractive waste, and that it would be irrational and unreasonable if planning permission was refused, because it didn't satisfy a waste policy such as Waste Mine 01. Somewhere in there, something makes sense to him. As for the rest of us, we couldn't believe what we were hearing. Naturally, Orbison, you remember, the counsel for the company providing the electric poles, rode in along with Beattie, Elvin and Gordon on this. Miss McParland ended this conversation with the comment that if the department goes against our recommendations, they have to give due reason, and that can take us all to the court. After lunch, we had an interesting turn of events. Commissioner McParland read out a communication, presumably from the gods, her boss, which detailed that the Landscape Day will go ahead beginning 3rd of August. That was the extent of the communication. He could have heard a pin drop in the room. Counsel for FODC was the first to speak, asking was there any reason given for this instruction. Answer: none given. He then declared he needed to take instruction. Beattie similarly said he needed to take instruction. Cormac McAleer made the request that the goddesses, Miss Kells, would grace us mere mortals with her presence and give us some sort of explanation as to what was going on. There were many different responses, so much so that it became clear the Commission needed to take a recess. We were given 30 minutes to come back and give our responses. After the break, Beattie declared that they would challenge the decision in the High Court over the landscape dates. Conor Fagan indicated FODC would join the challenge. Orbison was going to go along for the ride as an interested party in the proceedings, and Mary Brawley said that SOS would consider the matter on the 3rd of August, but as our witnesses are available from the 26th to the 28th of May, we're now considering our next steps. Elvin, on behalf of the department, said that it does not have the power to intervene and that it was ultimately the Chief Commissioner that would determine the evidence. I left the inquiry this afternoon honestly wondering about what this inquiry has become. I think what shocked most people today was not even Mr Elvin's intervention on mine waste policy, although that certainly raised a few eyebrows in the room. It is the complete mishandling of this inquiry by the PSC and the subsequent chaos around the timetable, which is becoming harder and harder to ignore. We're now trying to organise expert witnesses, legal teams and people's lives for hearings due to start in just over a week, while dates are being shifted around in a way that feels completely detached from the reality facing everyone involved. People have travelled here in good faith, many at huge personal costs, and there's a growing feeling that third parties are simply expected to absorb the disruption and uncertainty without complaint. It feels like ordinary people are being worn down by a system that has lost touch with basic humanity and any sense of equality of arms. People are rearranging their lives, caring responsibilities and expert witnesses at a week's notice, while this process drifts further and further into confusion. There was real anger in the room today and disbelief at how unprofessional this process has become. Anger at how much public money has been wasted. Anger at how far this inquiry now feels from anything resembling a fair and balanced process. To use an Irish phrase, gobsmacked comes to mind. That's it for now. Apparently we have to turn up again on Monday. Or maybe not.